Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. At AM 630. WMAL.
637 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. It's Brian Wilson, and Brian Neiman's still off. I think he'll be back tomorrow. That's the plan. That's the last I heard. Filling in today is Mark Corallo, a guy who used to work at the Justice Department, and it's really good that you're here today because we need to tap into your expertise. The Fast and Furious Inspector General report came out. Inspector General of the Department of Justice issued this report, which by and large clears Eric Holder, but throws some other people pretty much under the bus and said that they acted improperly. First of all, you know the IG, right, Mark?
Yeah, Mike Horowitz, a great guy. Worked with him for a little over 2 years. He was in the criminal division at the Justice Department. He was there on 9/11, worked his tail off, as straight a shooter, great prosecutor as you're ever going to find.
So you feel that you have some confidence that this is a fair report?
All the confidence in the world.
Katie Pavlich is on the line right now, and Katie, of course, has written the definitive book on Fast and Furious. She's an editor with townhall.com, and she wrote the book Fast and Furious, Barack Obama's Bloodiest Scandal and Its Shameless Cover-Up. Katie, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Okay, so you've had a chance to go through this. This is a very lengthy report. You've had a chance to read through it. What is your sense of it?
Well, first I want to start off by saying, even though Michael Horowitz is the Inspector General who is presenting the report today in front of Congress, he's actually not the one who did the bulk of the work on the report. If people remember, he got his position as Inspector General in the DOJ in March. So the person who did the bulk of the work on this report was a woman named Cynthia Schneider.
Right.
And she has a long-term relationship with Eric Holder in terms of she worked for him when he was the U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C., and has had a professional friendship with him since that point. So It's kind of this illusion that Michael Horowitz is the one who actually did the work on this report when really he's only been doing work since March.
Comes out under his name, though, does it not?
It does, but still it's important to understand that, although he's presenting it, he's not the one who has been doing the bulk of the investigation.
All right, so the Attorney General gets sort of cleared in this thing, but there are some people at the Department of Justice who are singled out as not doing what they should have done. Go through that.
Right, and we saw some resignations yesterday. We saw Jason Weinstein, who had a huge role in communication between the Phoenix U.S. Attorney's Office and finding out what was going on there, and he's being accused of not telling his boss what was going on.
All right, now he's a deputy assistant AG, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Mark, real quick, what is a deputy assistant AG?
Deputy assistant, he's a number 2 in one of the divisions.
Okay, all right, and then there were others who sort of had to walk away yesterday.
Right, exactly, and I think we're going to see some more of those, and not to mention I think we're probably going to see some criminal prosecutions of ATF officials who are named in this report. Let's not forget Bill Newell, who was in charge of the Phoenix ATF office at the time of Fast and Furious, who still claims to this day that there was no wrongdoing. What I found interesting in this report is right away they talked about the connection between Fast and Furious and the murder of Brian Terry, or Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. And that's something that ATF officials and DOJ officials have kind of tried to avoid talking about up to this point because it really gives a severe picture of the scandal. And so that was something that IG put out there right away in terms of why the scandal is the way it is now. And
the acting director of the ATF is a guy named Kenneth Melson. He did not come out well in this report.
He did not come out well in this report either. And he was one of the people who about a year ago testified behind closed doors to Congress, and the word that came out of that was that he felt sick when he found out about what they were actually doing, that he raised red flags, but that's not what this IG report says. Now, although the IG report is a very comprehensive and legitimate report, it's important to understand that this is the DOJ investigating itself. We're still going to see 2 more congressional reports coming out of the Oversight Committee, and we already have one of those reports out that's about 300 pages long as well. And so, this is a good report, but it also is from the Department of Justice itself.
So you imagine pretty tough questioning today as this report is put forward, right?
Absolutely, and I expect questions, not only about the report and obviously rehashing a lot of what happened in the scandal and the cover-up. But I also expect them to ask questions like, well, considering that the Justice Department has used the excuse up to this point, we can't release any of these documents because there's an ongoing internal investigation. I'm wondering now if the Justice Department is going to give a little bit on that, or if they're going to continue with this executive privilege claim. And that's a big question as well. I mean, if this is something that really was lower-level ATF officials and, not the highest of the senior officials in the DOJ, then why is the executive privilege necessary for Eric Holder?
All right, now here's a question I'm going to pose to you and to my friend Mark Carallo, who worked at the Justice Department. Look, Eric Holder gets a pass pretty much in this IG report, although they said he could have turned over documents more quickly. That's one of the things the report says. My question is, doesn't the guy at the top ultimately, isn't that the place where the buck has to stop? Don't you have some responsibility for what's going on underneath you? It's one of those things like, if you did know, why didn't you stop it? If you didn't know, why didn't you know? Yeah,
wouldn't it be refreshing if Eric Holder actually took some responsibility instead of spiking the football and basically making kind of this outlandish claim that he's been vindicated? I mean, hard to see the vindication here. In my mind, I look at it and I think, okay, he is not directly accused by the IG of anything, but you're the boss. You need to take, And in spiking the football and claiming vindication for himself, he's thrown his people under the bus. That's not exactly a hallmark of leadership.
What about that, Katie?
And I agree. I mean, Eric Holder came out yesterday within 30 minutes of this report being released with a like he said, a spike the football statement that was actually inaccurate. I mean, he talked about how, quote, the department's leadership did not attempt to cover up information or mislead Congress about it, when the entire IG report is about how Congress was misled by his officials in the Justice Department.
Right.
And he doesn't, he fails to mention the 74,000 fast and furious documents he's refused to hand over. They've only handed over about 6,000, most of which are redacted. Right. He forgot to mention the February 4th, 2011 letter that was edited multiple times by Assistant Attorney General Lanny Brewer, who was also a number 2 guy in the Justice Department, and signed off by the Assistant Attorney General Ronald White and sent to Congress, and it was later withdrawn because it was so full of falsehoods and misleading information. And so, just because the IG didn't single out Eric Holder doesn't mean he doesn't have a huge part in this. And I agree. It would be nice if Eric Holder could come out and say, look, mistakes were made here. I'm the boss. But instead he's kind of saying, I'm the one who's clean here. All of your hands are dirty, but mine are not.
Right. All right. Well, listen, Katie, you've done great work on this story. You are the definitive reporter on this. It's a story that we followed. However, I suspect we won't see a tremendous amount about this in the mainstream press. Thanks a lot, Katie.
Great. Yes, thanks so much.